Okay, today's Today's lesson is special right triangles. This particular lesson, you will use the rest of this unit. You will use it second semester. You will use it next year in Math 3. You will use it in advanced math. And those of you moving on to calculus, you will use it in calculus as well. So you want to make sure you completely and fully understand. Okay, our first special right triangle is a 45, 45, 90. 45 degrees, 45 degrees, and 90 degrees. First off, do you guys agree that 45 plus 45 plus 90 is 180?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you also agree this is an isosceles triangle?
No. Yes.
Here are the base angles.
Oh.
So here's the base side, and here are the congruent legs. Do you guys remember that? So congruent legs means that these two legs are what? Equal. They are the same. They are congruent. Okay, so I'm going to put an A for my variable. It's not always have to be A. It could be X, but we typically use A to represent the missing side. This is also going to be called A. Please stop. Put your phones away, hoods off in class, hats off in class, earbuds put away. You guys know the routine. Let's go. Let's go. Okay, so taking a look, bless you. Do you guys understand why these two are both A?
Yeah.
Yes, they are both A because it's an isosceles triangle. Okay, now what can I use to find the length of the hypotenuse? What's the theorem called? Pythagoreans. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. I'm going to put this in pencil because I will erase it. The hypotenuse is always C. So A squared plus A squared, because they're both A, equals C squared. Do you guys see how that worked? Yeah. A squared plus B squared, they're both A. So it's A squared plus A squared.
Yes.
They are like terms. What's 1A squared plus 1A squared? Up front, gentlemen.
2A.
2A squared. Equals C squared. All right, I'm trying to get C by itself to figure out what this C is. You learned this last year. What do you do to both sides?
You divide.
Okay, we divide if we're trying to get A by itself, but I'm trying to get C by itself. So what do I do to get rid of the squared?
Oh, you put that around it.
Put that around it, the square root. Why? We've been talking about this. What does the square root and the square do to each other?
They cancel out.
They undo each other. They're inverse functions. They undo each other. C equals, I'm going to write this out, 2 is prime, 2 times A times A. Does everyone agree that A squared is A times A?
Yeah.
Is that a pair?
Yeah.
Does it come out as A or A squared?
A squared.
As just A, right? Because the pair comes out as just one of itself. So what do I end up with? C equals A root what?
2.
2. So I'm going to erase this C up here. And in its place, I'm going to put A root 2. All right. This is what you need to have memorized. Yes?
Why wouldn't A squared be like erased like how C squared was?
Say it. Can you repeat it?
Well, why isn't the exponent in A erased like how the exponent in C is erased?
I am not understanding the question. So I'm going to have you repeat it again. Why? Am I pointing to the right part?
Yes.
Okay. Why is the A squared
Yeah.
not written
Yeah.
like what?
Like why doesn't the exponent go away?
Oh, it did. It did. It's right here. That's why the A is out. See, it undoes each other, but the 2 didn't have a squared, so the 2 has to stay in. Do you see that?
Yeah.
So the way I showed it was writing it 2 with the A and the A came out, which is the same as what you just said. They cross each other out. But the 2 didn't have a pair or didn't have a squared, so it stays root 2. Very good question. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you definitely need to have the 45, 45, 90 triangle in your head.
So is that the answer?
This is what you'll need to know. Like when it comes test day or quiz day, we have a quiz on Friday, by the way. You will write this down on your paper. You'll draw your 45, 45, 90, and you'll put A root 2. You do not have to do all this. This is just showing you where the a root 2 comes from. But if you were to look up special right triangles online, a picture of this will pop up. Yes,
So before Thanksgiving is that quiz the only thing we're doing?
yes.
Oh.
Okay, after today, of course, because today we do have stuff to work on. You won't even have over break? Is that what you're asking? Yeah, I don't give work over break. To me, that's your time off.
I have a lot of work to make up over.
When I have break with my kids, I want that time with my kids, not. Is it an AP class?
Goody.
That's why.
Goody.
All right. Guys, gentlemen. Okay, next special right triangle is a 30, 60, 90.
60, 90.
30, 60, 90. Please stop the talking. Okay. Now, I'm going to give you what they are, and then I'll explain if needed. Okay, so the one that we call A is always opposite the 30. The hypotenuse, the biggest side, is always 2A. And opposite the 60 is always A root 3.
Let me see.
So A, 2A, A root 3. Would you guys like me to explain these to you the way I did this one?
Yeah. How come it's not like the other one?
Why is it not like the other one? Okay, I'm going to where shall I do it? I'll do it down here. Okay, let's say we had an equilateral triangle. What does an equilateral triangle mean? All sides are the same and all what are the same? Angles. So 180 divided by 3, put those away please. 180 divided by 3 is what?
A number.
Does everyone agree an equilateral or equal angular triangle will be 60, 60, 60? Yes or no? Okay. For the sake of this problem, because we're going to be cutting things in half, I'm going to call all the sides 2A. 2A. Instead of just A, I'm calling them 2A so we do not have to work with fractions. I'm then going to bisect this angle. Remember when it's an isosceles triangle and you bisect the angle, it's always a perpendicular bisector to the base. Do you guys remember that? So I know my triangle's not drawn to scale, but you guys can understand it enough. Okay, so when I do this, this is 90 because I just said it was a perpendicular bisector. This angle here is still what? 60. And the top angle, I just told you I cut in half. So what's the top angle? 30. Do you see the 30, 60, 90?
Yeah.
Okay. Which side here did not change? Which side is still 2A?
What? Bottom base.
The hypotenuse.
90.
Do you guys see the hypotenuse is still 2A?
Oh yeah.
Yes or
Where
no?
do you get that?
Okay. Hold on. Please stop. What did I say this was? The perpendicular what? Bisector. So if this is 2A and it's bisected, what's the length of this now? 1A, right? If you cut 2A in half, it's 1A, yes or no? Okay, now we're going to do A squared plus B squared equals C squared. I'm going to call this B really light because I will erase it. A squared plus B squared equals C squared, which is 2A squared. Remember, B is what I'm trying to solve for. So what am I going to subtract to the other side?
2A.
A squared.
Yo, that's heck confused.
I know.
Why is it? Why is it?
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Before I subtracted, you guys were correct. Before I subtracted that over, what should I have done first?
Distributed.
Right here, distributed is correct. A squared plus B squared equals, what's 2A times 2A?
4A.
4A squared. right? 2a times 2a is 4a squared, yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, then I subtract what from both sides?
Wait,
Why am I subtracting a squared? Because I'm trying to figure out what b is. B squared equals, what's 4a squared take away 1a squared? 3a squared. I'm trying to get b by itself, so what do I do to both sides?
Divide. You divide and conquer.
I don't divide, I radical, I take the square root. What happens with this, guys? What happens with the square root and the squared? B equals, now this was the question he asked earlier about what happens. Does the square root and the a squared cancel each other out? You're left with a, and what stays in?
3.
And is, I'm going to erase this now, is that the picture we have up here?
That looks like it.
A root 3, 2a, and a. So it's not just a bunch of junk that mathematicians threw out there. It actually mathematically works. Now, if you get stuck, please listen. If you get stuck on the test and you can't remember this, technically, you can always resort to this to figure out what your side lengths are. But do you agree this can be kind of difficult as well? Yes. So you're better off just working on what?
Pythagorean theorem.
Memorizing. Memorizing these. If you forget what they are, I've given you the tools to figure them out, but you're better off working on trying to memorize these and not waiting till the day before the test, because that's going to hurt you. All right, I am going to draw one more, and it's going to be that exact same one there, just toppled over on its side. And there's a reason why I'm doing this.
what's the reason?
Good question.
So you can learn it.
What is the reason? Kids often see this, and they don't ever think about it rotating. They think, oh, A is always at the bottom, and A root 3 is always up along the side. That is not true. This is rotated. The hypotenuse is always 2A, and opposite the 30 is always what? A. So go to your 30, go opposite, and this is the side I'm going to call A. Opposite the 60 is always what? Opposite the 60 angle.
3.
So I go the 60, opposite the 60 is?
A root 3.
Okay, so what you have to remember here for this, hypotenuse is always 2A, opposite the 30 is always A, opposite the 60 is always A root 3, regardless of how the picture is drawn and rotated. Here, opposite the 45s are A's, and the hypotenuse is A root 2. Got it? All right, let's try some examples. Find the missing sides.
It's a lot of work. Sounds hard.
Number 1,
Where are we taking?
one lesson today.
That's it. And then we're doing the note thingy, whatever. What's it called?
The
The
what?
packet?
Yes. 45,
Forgot.
45, 90. Okay.
However you get one.
Oh my, you guys.
My bad, man.
Okay, I'm going to quickly give you steps on this side. Steps you're going to use to find your missing sides. Step 1, label all sides. Label all sides using this. A root 2, or A, 2A, A root 3. Step 2, solve for A. Sometimes it's given to you, sometimes you have to do some work. Step 3, find your missing sides. Please stop. Find your missing sides. Okay, so let's finish labeling this one. I'm going to tell you that this side is 23, this side is X, this side is Y, and down here we're going to put X equals blank and Y equals blank. All right, step 1. Label all your sides. What type of special triangle is this? The first one or the second one?
first one.
The 45, 45, 90, the isosceles one?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Label all your sides. Which sides? There's two sides that are A. Which two sides here are my A's?
23 and X.
23 and X. Everybody agree with him? And the hypotenuse is what?
Me.
The hypotenuse is A root 2. And in this case, I heard somebody say it. It's what? The Y. A root 2. Do you guys see how the hypotenuse is A root 2? Okay, step 2, solve for A. And I said earlier, sometimes it's given to you, sometimes you have work. It's right here. There will always be one side where you have a number and you can solve for A. Is there any work to do? I have to divide, or is A already solved for? A is already solved for, so now we can find all the other sides. X is A, so what does X equal? 23. You're done with X. That's it. Y is whatever A is times root 2. We just found A, so what would I put here for Y? 23 root 2, and you're done with the problem.
That's easy.
Okay?
Wait.
Okay.
Oh wait, never mind. Wait. Oh, never mind. I got you.
Okay, so let's try another one. Okay. In this picture, I'm only asking you for X. What triangle is this? The 45, 45, 90 or the 30, 60, 90? Or not enough information? Okay, I heard a few of you say 45, 45, 90. How do I know that if they didn't give me any angles other than the 90? What is that?
All sides
If these two sides are congruent, it's what type of isosceles, which means these two angles have to be the same, which means they are both what?
45.
45. That's the only way to add up to 180 is that these two are 45. Okay, so are they always going to tell you, are they always going to give you 45, 45? No, if they tell you that these two are the same with either markings or they give you two 32s, and you know it's an isosceles right triangle,
What if they give? Wait.
those are automatically 45, 45. Yes, what's your question?
What if they only give you 132 in that X?
Then they're going to put markings like that. So they'll either give you those two markings, or they'll give you like 32 and 32.
Okay.
Okay, either or. All right, so let's label all our sides. Where do my A's go?
The A's go.
A's are on my congruent legs. Where do the A's go here? 32 and the non-labeled side. Do you agree? And the hypotenuse is A root 2. Can you guys please pay attention? Where does the A root 2 go in this picture? On the X.
On
A root 2. Okay, and then I said solve. There's one of them that has a number, and either you have to solve for A or A's already solved for. What is it? A equals 32. They didn't ask me for this side. X is A root 2, so what is X?
Root 2. 32 root 2.
32 root 2, and that's it with that problem. Good. Number 3. $30, $60. This is X, this is 9, this is Y. X equals blank, Y equals blank. Step 1, label all your sides. What type of triangle is this one, the first or the second? The 30, 60, 90. Most kids struggle with this one a little bit more than this one. You just want to memorize the smallest side is always A. The smallest side is opposite your 30. Is that the X, the 9, or the Y? Opposite the 30 is the 9, so that's your A. The hypotenuse is always the biggest. That's 2A. Where's the hypotenuse in this picture? So this is 2A. And opposite the 60 is the wonky piece. That's what? A root. Oh, be careful. A root 3. You have to be careful when you're using A root 3 and when you're using A root 2. The 30, 60, 90 is the a root 3, so what is x?
A root 3.
A root 3. Look for a where you have to solve or it's already given to you. What is it? A equals what?
9.
9. And, all right, if a is 9 and x is a root 3, what would I put here for x? 9 root 3. And y is double a is 9, what would I put for y? And that's it for that problem.
18.
We have a few more to do. Again, x is a root 3, a being 9 root 3, and y is 18 because you double the a value. Questions? Okay, number 4. Okay. Yes. Hustle, please. Okay, what type of triangle is this? The 45, 45, 90 or the 30, 60, 90?
36.
Okay, so step 1, label everything first. Which one is the smallest side? Opposite the 30, opposite the 60, or opposite the 90?
Opposite 30.
It's opposite the smallest angle. Opposite the 30 is the smallest angle, or 30 is the smallest. So y is my smallest side, which is what? What letter do I put here? A. Hypotenuse is the biggest side. Where's the hypotenuse? The what? The 36. And what's the length of the hypotenuse? Look at your 30, 60, 90, or you have it in your head already. What? I heard somebody whisper it. 2a. Which leaves my 60. What's opposite the 60? It's the wonky one. It's not root 2. A root 3. Look for a with a number. There's going to be somewhere that has a number that you either know a or can solve for a. Where is it in this picture?
It's 36.
Does that mean a is 36 or do I actually have to solve on this one?
It's all
What do I divide both sides by?
2.
Well, that's easy.
What does a equal? A equals, did I hear 18? Okay. So let's go in now. X is a root 3. We just found a, so what is x?
18 root 3.
18 root 3 is correct. Y is just a, so what is y?
18.
18. Questions?
Nope.
All right. Does it seem doable?
Yeah.
Okay. Once we start the worksheet, there are some that are a little confusing, but we will be working together. Okay. 45, 45, I've already marked the 90, x, y, 23 root 2, x equals blank, y equals blank. All right, which one is this? 45, 45, 90 or 30, 60, 90?
45.
Does anybody have it in their head already? There's 2 A's. Where do the A's go in this picture?
X and Y.
Do you guys agree with him? He said the X and the Y. Right, because those are the congruent legs for the isosceles triangle. What's the hypotenuse in a 45, 45, 90? A root 3, A root 2, 2A, what is it? Look at your picture, you have it in your head.
A root 2.
A root, you were right, A root 2. Does anybody have it in their head already? A root 2. Okay, which one here either has A already solved for or I can solve for A? Which one? There's always going to be a side, at least one side that has a number. 23 root 2 equals A root 2. I'm trying to get A by itself. It's by
the square.
the square root of 2. Now, it doesn't always happen this way. This one's nice because what ends up reducing? The root 2's reduce, right? A equals what?
Yeah.
23. All right, x is A, so what is x? What is x? 23. Y is also A, so what is Y?
23.
23. Okay, let's try one more. Questions on 25? No questions? Yes. Bless you. Okay. What type of triangle? What special one? 45, 45 or 30, 60? 45, 45. Start to label your A, and your A root 2. Do that now. Which one's A, and which one's the A root 2? Jason, can you tell me where to put my A's? X and Y. Good. So A. And Jason, can you tell me what the 24 is? A radical 2. Good job. All right, which one am I going to use to solve? The A, or the A root 2?
A root 2.
Okay. 24 equals A root 2. What am I trying to get by itself? A. So what do I divide both sides by? Radical 2. Unfortunately, it does not do what like it did on the last one.
X out.
It doesn't cross out. It doesn't reduce like the last one. I will tell you right now, you have something like this on the test that you need to know how to work through. Because if you said A equals 24 divided by root 2, you would get it wrong. Does anybody remember why? Yes.
Because the radical can't be in the denominator.
Good job. Because the radical cannot be in the denominator. So if you stopped and said, oh, I'm done, it's wrong. And if it's multiple choice, they won't even have this as an answer. You're going to be like, I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. Who can remember what I multiplied top and bottom by?
2. The radical.
The radical in this case, which is radical what?
Radical 2.
So top and bottom by radical 2. Why top and bottom? Because root 2 over root 2 reduces to?
12 and root 1.
Root 2 over root 2 reduces to? 1. And 1 is the multiplicative identity. And why of all the radicals in the world do I pick root 2 so the denominator will have a pair? We don't want the radical there. So A equals, what do I get when I multiply the numerator?
24 times
24 root 2 over, there's a pair, so what's root 2 times root 2? 2. Okay, I'm going to repeat. The whole reason why we picked the root 2 is so that there is a pair there and the radical is now gone. I've accomplished what I was trying to accomplish, but I still have one more thing to do here, and what is that? Can I simplify?
Yes.
What goes into 24 and also 2? 2 divided by 2 is? 24 divided by 2 is? So what is A? Okay. Now, you do not have a lot like this, but you have enough, and you need to know it for the what? Test. Maybe I'll even throw one on the tomorrow's quiz, just to get you to have that practice. All right.
Good grade.
X is A. We just found A. What is X?
12.
Radical 2.
Okay, because that's what A is. And Y is also A, so what is Y?
12.
12 radical 2. Questions? Are we good? Okay, take your packets out, please.